call to order the Thursday, September 11th meeting of the Economic Development Commission. Verify our quorum. To our agenda, we're going to first...
Sir, your microphone's off.
Thank you. Moving on our agenda to looking at the meeting minutes from July 10th. We'd entertain a motion to accept. Jody?
Second.
Steve? Okay. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Sure. I'll get this one,
Works for him.
Steve.
See if you get the next one.
Yeah.
Okay. I would like to invite our esteemed colleague, the Chief Executive Officer of the Amity Chamber of Commerce, Barry Cohen, to address the Commission. Barry, thank you for coming.
No problem. I can sit here, right?
I need the microphone, sir.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. No problem.
Full view of the camera.
There you go. Shine in the head. Took a picture 2 weeks ago. It was three of us. There was the president of the chamber, who is Ted Novicki, and then there was Frank Reynolds from Avangrid and myself, and all three of us had bald heads, and the whole picture came out like halos over our heads. It was like, couldn't use it, the issue. But anyway, yes, I guess I'm here. I just give you a little bit of information about the chamber, just a little bit of background, and then I'll touch on the community awards, and I also did a little bit of little data entry in terms of Woodbridge members and stuff like that. I'll throw out at you. It's not a magic. It's not the Bible, but it gives you a little bit of a roadmap in terms of what we've been doing since officially March 27th, I said, when we became the chamber. But yeah, so I myself, I came on board with the Orange Chamber of Commerce in terms of being the executive director on July 1st of 2024. Coincidentally, and it was coincidentally, this was never part of my big grand plan, I'd been on the board for like 3 months prior to that because my business, my own business, was a member of Orange, as I am with Milford and other chambers. The opportunity came up, and they asked me if I would be of interest to it, and I always wanted to try something different. I come from the manufacturing sector myself, the business-to-business sector, and basically had a great corporate career, and for the last over 9 years I've had my own business, and now I'm doing this, and did a little bit of politicking on the side over there too. Quickly got out of that, and I'll tell you, it's been a joy because I'll be quite honest with you. When I came on board, and I don't think it was unlike a lot of other chambers, is pretty much after COVID, the idea of people gathering together and being parts of organizations, and it was kind of very weak. And when I walked in, there was really only enough money there for about 6 weeks of operations, really. And I didn't realize how bad it was, but it was pretty bad. And I spent my first 90 days there saying, are we relevant? You know, do I really want to stay here till the end of the year and send out new invoices if we can't create value for the businesses? And so one of the first things we did, or one of the first things I decided to do was someone came in and they said, you know, Barry, we have to have our annual meeting soon. And me, being me, I said, oh yeah? Well, there's going to be three of us sitting around the table with a cup of coffee in our hands, and we can basically meeting ourselves to death. And I said, we need to engage the community, and from there came the community awards, the annual meeting and community awards. And at the time it was the Orange Chamber, and we did Policeman of the Year and Fireman of the Year and Business of the Year. Lo and behold, it was really a smashing success that September, a year ago. And we had almost 100 people. We had 92 people in the room, which was pretty amazing. And from there it gained momentum. And I'm going to give you the real condensed notes here, you know, in terms of this, is by the end of the year, by December 31st of that year, we basically increased our membership by over 45%, okay? As of today, over the last 15 months, since July 1st, we've increased our membership by 57%, okay? So we're strong, we're now financially stable, we've taken on a lot. But going back to that community awards is when I discovered, or not that I was investigating it at all, you know, I came up to me because I invited the local towns. I said, you know what, let me, you know, I saw who our membership was, I saw who they did business with, and I said, I don't know who this Mika Cardozo guy is, let me just give him a call. I said, you know, would you come as our guest to the awards? And he graciously accepted. And I saw him there, and he liked what he saw, and he said, "Gee, this is really great." And I looked him in the eye, and I said, "Mika, next year I want to do this for the 3 towns." Okay? And he said, "Sounds good to me." That November, that's when we basically voted to become an Amity Chamber, because we listened to our voice of customer. Our voice of customer is our members. Not only is the school systems there, but there's so many people that do business in the 3 towns. It was like, why wasn't this done a long time ago? And it really freed us up in a lot of ways, because it gave us opportunities to basically grow and to really do value, because a lot of chambers today, regardless of the name of the chamber, they really are regional. I mean, even if you took a look at Orange before it became the Amity Chamber, Orange doesn't have a center of town. I mean, we don't have that center green. But what you have is the Post Road, and the Post Road is the corridor of Orange. And so even before I walked on to the stage, we always had a certain number of people that were in Milford, a certain number of people that were in West Haven, because if you were a stone's throw away from one or the other, maybe you should be in both chambers, or be in no chambers, or what have you. So we basically have a great synergy that now we only have that, but we had opportunity in Woodbridge, and because of that, a lot of other, when we came on, a lot of good things happened for us. I can tell you that we went on from the community awards, and we kind of changed I'll call it, we changed the business model. I try to give the chamber a new business model where, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I've learned that if you're a small guy and you try to imitate the big guys, you can't do it as well, and you don't have the resources to do it. So you take a few things, you do a few things right, and you do them well, but you can't do it, but you also have to show value. And something that I've always evangelized about, which I believe I brought to the chamber, is when I began my corporate career many decades ago, when I had a full head of hair and a bigger nose. But when I did, we always talk about customer satisfaction, and then we went into delighting the customer. But what we really became into when I started my own business now with the chamber is what I call member intimacy, because it's not like you can go to any chamber site and they're pretty much all the same. You're about your benefits. You get, you have your business after hours, your business before hours. You get this discount. But what we basically did, I said, you know what? Wherever possible, we're not going to charge for business after hours or business before hours for our members, wherever possible. There are those exceptions if we're paying some overhead, like a community awards that we're actually paying for the night, if you will, of the day. Or if we're doing something for charity or something like that, we'll give a certain amount of proceeds to the food bank or what have you. But beyond those, we didn't do that. When we moved on, and we said in January we had our first health and fitness expo, and getting the brands on board was really big. And when we basically got Planet Fitness to be one of the co-sponsors of that, that was a brand, that was a name, that was a recognition, that was the beginning of something big. And then we got Regional Water Authority on, and from there, through my corporate time and so forth, I basically knew who I wanted to talk to, and you don't talk to anybody until you already have the answers, so I had my answers, and you talk to these people, and I knew when I got on board that they had reservoirs in Woodbridge. And I said, when do I bring this up? When do I get them on as a member, but not as a member, but as someone who, I don't care about rock, paper, scissors membership, but as a community member for that community engagement, because any chamber, if you don't have the community behind you, it's not worth. So, so we're able to get a lot of good momentum. And the day before, it was a snowstorm out. That morning, we still had about 300 people that went through. It was like about a 3-hour expo, if you will. We had 35, and we didn't charge for tables for our members, because I said to you, if you're a small business person, let me define that. Our membership for a small business person, being 1 to 5 employees, an LLC, if you will, is only $275. It's really not much, but that really only keeps the lights on. So you've got to get the big guys to do the sponsorships, because the sponsorships is what allows us to do the big programs. And that's why I bring up Planet Fitness, I bring up Avangrid. We're a very eclectic chamber of both big guys and small guys, but we all play in the same pool, and we play really well. We leverage a lot of what we do, but for those small guys, I'm going to say, you know what? You might be paying $275 or $415 a membership if you have, let's say, more than 10 employees or something like that. But other chambers are charging $150, $175 for a tail. I don't want to charge anything. So I want you to get immediate value, financial value. What a chamber does is provide opportunities. I've always believed that, where at the end of the year, in our case, in our chamber's case, we're on a calendar year membership. So at the end of the year, that November, December, when we send out the invoices, I want our members to come and I want them to say, you know what? I didn't do this, this, and this but I did these 2 things or these 3 things, but I knew I had the opportunity. So what we do is provide opportunities. When I say provide opportunities, not just for the events that we do, and we can go through lots of different events that we do, but also to collaborate with other businesses. We have restaurants, we have, I should say, food and beverage companies, be a perfect example. When I first came on board, there was probably 5 food and beverage companies, which included like a ShopRite, okay, to give you some idea. But now we have about 17 or 18 of them. And really what happens is when a member says to me, a corporate member, somebody who, like Crest Lincoln, we did a 30-year milestone ribbon cutting, and that's a whole other story, because they just wanted to do a business. And once they found out what their anniversary was, they said, no, we're going to have this big party, and we did something really special there. But they said, who do I cater? Who does my stuff? I give them names, and people get business from one another. We've had people, even though I'm in the marketing world, I never market my own company because I think it's unethical and I think it's a conflict of interest, to be honest with you. But my company's a member, is we've had our marketing people get business from other companies to build their website or do their social media. And the list goes on. We've had people that are landscapers that get a corporate lawn contract, and I can go on and on and on with those, because you have to be a dot connector. It just can't be, because I've been on your side of the table, both as, back in my old days, I was on the Economic Development Commission for West Haven. I was on the Airport Cards Economic Development Task Force many years ago. And I was also a councilman, but I was also a corporate executive, and I paid a lot of these dues. It's like, sometimes it's like, we just got to pay it. Oh, we just have to do it. I don't believe in that. I believe that if you pay a due, you pay an admission, you have to know that it's working for you. Or if it's not working for you, you're going to know right away. So, because, chambers aren't for everyone, but I think chambers are basically elegantly put together for the smaller to moderate-sized businesses that don't have all the marketing resources. Because they're the ones that, something as simple as, if you think about it, if you're a new business, and by the way, chambers, I really look at those ideally those that have been in business for a while, because those are the ones that are going to really want to move forward with you. But even a new business, they come on board, and I'll walk in, introduce myself, and so forth, and they usually think that a chamber is just a ribbon cutting, and that's probably the right assumption to make, because a lot of them, they do the ribbon cutting, you never see them again, or they don't go again. Well, the ribbon cutting, what we do is we do the member spotlights, and we do the actual placements and publications. In this case, should it be the Orange patch, the Bethany Woodbridge patch, the New Haven patch, whatever it may be, we'll do that type of stuff, and just that editorial publicity that we give them and the time that we do in organizing the ribbon cutting, that pays more than $275. So, but it's the idea to convince them that we provide value so that they'll provide it. A lot of times, I had someone come on board, a company come on board that hadn't, for whatever reason, hadn't been on for a few years. I don't know the whole history behind it, but and the guy paid the full price, and I said, no, I'm going to give you $100 back because I want to prorate it for you for this year, because you're going to get another bill next year, but I'd rather that you come to our community awards because I want you engaged. I'd rather not nickel and dime you for the extra $100 membership. I'd rather engage you so that I can convince you. You wouldn't buy a car without test driving it. I don't want you to join the chamber without providing some, I won't say freebies, but things that would be of truth to you. Now our big members, they'll support stuff, but someone like myself, and it depends, it's not a one size fits all. When Regional Water Authority was looking for somebody to talk about the community and so forth, I went on a Saturday to the radio show. In the case of Avangrid, they need certain spokespeople, as long as it's believable to me, I should say. It was dealing with, at the time it was dealing with energy pricing. And so I basically talked about the community and how many kilowatt hours that our members use and how it basically impacts, a lot of things. So we have some people that think I'm God because I come in once a month or once every 6 weeks and sign their custom forms, their import forms, because they need somebody to do that. So it's not, value is to be derived by customer through client intimacy.
I wonder if I could stop for a second.
Sure.
With your permission.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just.
Yeah, no, I'm sort of wondering about your penetration into Woodbridge.
Yeah, okay.
How's it going? And what are
where we
some
at
of
right
the
now?
obstacles that you're encountering?
No, I'll tell you right now is my biggest obstacle is me, because I'm one person, and so what I like to do is prioritize the region and where those best opportunities are, not just monetarily, but strategically, okay? And so right now with Woodbridge, I can tell you and this is something that I think is as honest as I can get here. Those that are Woodbridge-centric, Woodbridge businesses, or the owners comes from Woodbridge,
Yeah.
there's 7 of those since March 27th, which is not bad. You know, there's 7 of them. However, if you look back to what I was noted in the beginning, and I take a look at why we grew 57% was largely because we became the Amity region. And I'll give you some examples. If you take that in consideration, in total, yeah, it's the 7 that are Woodbridge-centric, if you will. But when I take a look at my entire list of people, it comes out to about 18, which is a nice number to have. And I don't, if you want, I'll very quickly read you the list because I don't want to take up your time. If you want to hear the names, I mean, there's no secret.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, no, I don't want to.
Go ahead.
And by the way, my printer ran out of ink at home, so I'm reading up against yellow, so you have to excuse me if I get some of these wrong, okay?
Yeah.
Is those that are true blue members, like straight Woodbridge members, as we sit here today, and there's some that are pending, but right now, okay, is Affordable Personal Services and Pet Care. She has her own company. Her name is Ingrid Harrison, and she's based out of Woodbridge. And she is a member, she's a pretty active member. One of our first members a year ago, or almost last summer, about a year ago, or well, I got him last summer, then we had the ribbon cutting, I think in February, was Dr. Swift from Atlas Eye Care.
Yeah.
He's another very active member. He's had booths at a couple of our events and so forth. We also have Barone Services, Luke, okay? He's another member because he's based on 7 Field Drive. Is that Field Drive? Is that right? Field Drive?
And what do they do?
Yeah. 7 Field Drive on Barone Services.
Oh, what do they do?
He's basically a landscaper, landscaping services, trees, that type of stuff. And he's been a member for a couple years now. The other one, which is interesting, she's a broker. It's Colwell. It's not Colwell. She has her own brokerage division. Chris Lovejoy. She's the assistant broker for Coldwell Banker. She has her own membership, but also Coldwell Banker themselves is a corporate partner. And what that means is even though they started out in Orange, that office or the management of that office also manages Woodbridge, so we extend the same membership to that Woodbridge office, and we always have. Or I made it a point that once, let's put it this way, we grandfathered them in, because should there be, you could have an argument back and forth. At the end of the day, you want to be able to create value even for your big members. Press Lincoln of Woodbridge, we just mentioned. Levy Miller Moretz came on as a member. And I just got today, and this is interesting, this doesn't sound right, but there's a reason for this. Milford City Lifestyle, the publisher is out of Woodbridge, and he's looking to expand into Woodbridge with his publication. So, but bottom line, he's a one-person businessman. Now, those are 7. I mean, that are hard there. If you take a look at those that have come on board because of our growth into the Amity region, should it be Orange and Woodbridge or Woodbridge and Bethany or that type of mix, but the idea that we are a regional chamber, and most likely they would not have joined if we were still Orange, if you will. Okay. Comcast Business, they want to expand out there. I didn't put them, Optimum was the same reason. Well, Optimum is another, and this goes back a year. Interesting one. She is a member right now of our Orange location, Mathnasium. Mathnasium, you know about Mathnasium, and I basically gave her, I'll be quite honest with you, I'm giving her a 2 for next year.
She lives in Woodbridge.
Yeah, she's going to open up, I guess, in January. So it really depends. Right now, by the end of the, I said, listen, this isn't beat the clock. If you do a ribbon cutting this year with me, fine. If it's not January, whatever, I said, well, I'm going to throw it in regardless of whenever, whatever. So bottom line is, so she's already paid for her, or she's also going to be a 2026 member, is what I'm saying. So that was already in there. Charter Senior Living of Woodbridge. We have Charter Senior Living of Orange. They're 2 separate entities in terms of the management direction. I'm going to see the sales and marketing director. I've met a few times already, and I'm just waiting for the check in the mail. I mean, they've already agreed to it, and we're from right now. I'll tell you, and I will tell you, and I will put it in writing because I haven't gotten it finalized. There's going to be a grand reopening because of the renovations they've done there. They're calling it a grand reopening, and I believe, and I'm going to solidify it tomorrow, okay? But I'm pretty sure that she said it was October 15th or 16th is what we're looking at in terms of that. And I'll have the exact date tomorrow, but mid-October is when we're going to be doing it. And that's when I basically send out the invitations to the commission, to Mika, state reps, et cetera. And, because it's going to be, and then we'll get the publicity there, and by then there'll be a member. I'm going there tomorrow to do a membership picture with them anyway, because I'm already out here. I mean, they're not running away, so, but they're basically, for all intents and purposes, they're part of that 18. It's just waiting for that. Interestingly enough, I'd say Coldwell Banker, even though she came on board a year ago, her focus was Woodbridge, because she's also a Woodbridge resident. And I know that she's an Orange, but I don't think she would have gotten on otherwise, because I convinced her in terms of our saturation. It's House of Brides. House of Brides, her name is Adina Jusik is her name, okay? But again, I can't guarantee all these people are going to, like any member, I can't guarantee they're going to be here for 2026. All we can do is, but I'm telling you, this is the snapshot today. Visionaire Eye Care is also an Orange, but the gentleman is Dr. Guo, and he knew about us because of what we did in Woodbridge, and when he opened up a new Orange facility, he basically opened up and so forth, and we've been working with him very successfully. Well, I said Regional Water Authority, but quite bluntly, only because of Woodbridge. I'm going to tell you this right now, only because of Woodbridge, because it took me a year to get the account. Tweed New Haven Airport. We got Tweed. Now I know they're in New Haven, but we got Tweed New Haven Airport. Why? Because I was able to say Amity. When they think of Amity, yeah, they think of Amity Road, but they also think of what you start when you think of Woodbridge. Some people, it's right next to New Haven, and right next to, they see we have Crest and so forth. So that spark of Woodbridge was a big seller to get Tweed. So I know it's not direct, but it's still nonetheless important. And finally, this one I'm just connecting the dots on right now, to be honest with you. They came on board about a week ago. He happens to live in Woodbridge, and it's a financial service firm. He's one of the financial advisors, one of the wealth advisors. It's called Moneko Advisors. And he was one that also overpaid, and he will be at the community awards, because I said to him, I said, I want you engaged. I said, keep your 100. I'm going to give you 2 tickets, because you got to, how can you in good faith charge a full price and then 2 months later basically charge them again, So yeah, so that's I don't know if that's helpful to you. I know it's very long-winded.
It is. It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So these are small businesses that are looking to benefit from networking into the Woodbridge community.
Yeah.
But there's not, I mean, aside from Optimum Comcast and
well, besides
Crest Lincoln, there really aren't any large consumers of space.
Well, I would say to you, the one that, again, I'm looking at size of the account and so forth, and just is Charter Senior Living of Woodbridge is sizable.
Charter Senior Living.
I'm talking about sizable in terms of that. I'll tell you that the rest of them that I listed there, you're right. But that's okay, because those are the guys that usually get engaged. To be honest with you, which is important. I mean, I'll give you for instance, like it's not only because we're talking about Charter Senior Living right now. Charter Senior Living of Orange, they do a great spread. We did a business after hours around Valentine's Day that week. And what we always do is we always connect the dots with the small members. Say, you know what? I'm going to go to the Thai restaurant. And we got a gift certificate. They couldn't be there. They wanted a $100 gift certificate for dinner for 2, blah, blah, blah. Then we went to the new salon. It was Kashmir Salon. What we try to do is tie in either through raffle or whatever, so they get to co-sponsor the event. They get the coverage almost equal to the big boy, I'll tell you, at this year's Community Awards, we have 6 sponsors at differing levels. And one of the smaller sponsors, but it's going to be a great company, is 7 Brew Drive-Thru. It'll be, I think, the 3rd one in Connecticut. They just bought the franchise. They're very big down south. And I'll give away the surprise, but it's a nice little add-on. When you walk in and you check off your name and you register before you have breakfast, they're going to have their own little table. They're giving out some of their own sample stuff, and Comcast can do the same. There's an added value that we're able to do it. Another example that we do with our small businesses, because it's so important, is, and again, you take the opportunity and you got to talk to the main guy first, is we mentioned about Crest Lincoln, but another example is Planet Fitness. Planet Fitness Orange is a member. And when they happen to celebrate 20 years in Orange, they happen to have a very big facility in Orange. As maybe you know, it's like 25,000 square feet compared to the smaller ones.
Right.
And I was able to get their sign-up and agreement to get about a dozen of our smaller chamber members there that were health-oriented, and we got Bulldogs from Academy there, and we got the fire. So we got to showcase our own customers while contributing towards their celebration. And yeah, we had the pizza guy there, and we had the donut guy there, and we had the, we had that. So it's a way of really networking, of really connecting dots.
Sure.
It's a marketing arm for these small to mid-sized businesses. And for the large businesses, it shows their community engagement and involvement.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, if they have no money at all, they really don't have a budget whatsoever. We do something for them, something as small as, this year they don't do it anymore, Yale Children's Hospital, they're doing something different, unfortunately, but in the last couple of years, it'll be different this year. We did a toy drive and what we did with couple of smaller accounts, saying, hey, you know what, I want to highlight you. You got a box? Want to wrap up the box? Well, we're going to make you a toy box drop. Those are the small things that highlight them. They get into social media, or they get into, should it be Instagram or Facebook? And for the small businesses, the social media is even more important sometimes than some of the larger media.
And
So,
which are the newspapers that you're
well,
bringing into the?
I would tell you.
You said the Patch.
I will tell you respectfully that the papers nowadays, because they're getting to be a dying breed in terms of the print, I really focus on their digital properties. I really focus on both, and some of these are applicable to Whitbridge, others aren't, and it depends on the company. But basically, probably in terms of readership, digital online readership, right now in terms of digital, Patch.com, they have a number of properties. So, and again, when we did, when we do Charter Senior Living of Whitbridge, and we do the same thing with Atlas Eye Care, if I recall, and there's a couple others that we did, is when we send out an announcement, well, we're going to send it out to Patch of New Haven, Patch New Haven because it's right there. We're going to send it out to Patch of Orange, Patch of Milford, because that's where, some of those businesses are going to get. And also, I know that the patch they call Bethwood, the Bethany Whitbridge is a smaller one, but we still send it out to there. There's those. Also, we also do the Milford Orange Times, okay, which is really more of a print paper. And the one that finally came back to life, I mean, the guy just wasn't doing anything, but he's doing them now because he just did it for our community awards for the Bethany Policeman, the Whitbridge Policeman of the Year, okay, is there's the Orangetown News and the Whitbridge Town News. They're both online publications. They're both by the same publishers, and now all of a sudden they decided to publish again. And so we've been getting, to have a digital organ for Whitbridge has been a challenge. There's no doubt about it. And so having them back on board is fine. Registered, they just don't run anything for anybody. I'm just saying that respectfully. It's not just our chamber. It's just, I don't get it. So some of the things that are business oriented, I gave him an earful too, and I said, listen, I don't care about me, I don't care about the chamber, but here you are, you have the Fireman of the Year, you have the Policeman of the Year, and you can't give us any print for that. It's crazy. So I can't predict the Hearst papers. So, but we have what I basically rattled off just about a half a dozen papers, but really a lot of it is sharing and linking a lot of those companies and so forth in social media. But we get a pretty healthy return on investment in terms of the free publicity that you get, because the editorials, like in other words, if you're a new member, we do the chamber newsletters about twice a week, and that's important, and the social media is important. But when you get a lot of eyeballs on something, a lot of people, they don't get the paper at the door anymore. They're going to go to the Patch. They're going to go online. They're going to start reading because on your phone you get the alerts. A lot of that stuff when it comes to the alerts is the papers that I just mentioned, of the local papers, and those local papers was I just rattled off. And so it's how you digest it. If you go to their site directly, or you get it via, just because it's what the iPhone sends you, if you will. I have no idea how it works that way, but it does, type of thing. So yeah.
That's
So
good to know.
yeah, it's good to know. Yeah, and it's also relationship building with some of the editors, and because of it's been. I'll be honest with you. A year ago, I was tearing my hair out, and I say that. And you learn stuff because I'm from West Haven, and whenever I would do a news release for a food drive that I was doing, an animal drive I was doing, whatever I was doing, okay? There is dedicated assigned editors, meaning digital editors, for the West Haven patch. There's also for the Milford patch. Well, guess what? There wasn't for the Orange patch. It was like, who has time to do it? And I would wait a couple weeks. It would drive me nuts. So I jumped through a number of hoops last year. It took about 6 months to get done. I am now, they call it a community contributor, which allows me access to publish our own articles. So I'm now able to say to a member, or a prospective member, I guarantee you that I will, and it's not even edited. Now, the Milford Orange Times is wonderful. They only give you like a little caption, though, that the news release, or I'll say 95% of the news release that we write that I turn into a story, is going to be on bippity boppity boo. You know, some, it's not a one size fits all. It depends on the company. It depends on the member. Some of them I do 2 patches, 3 patches, 4 patches, you know. And it takes a lot of time though too, because I got to post each one. But what I'm saying is, but it's worth it, because think about all those eyeballs that you're really getting for each of those towns. Because if you live in Orange, you know, you're going to subscribe to the Orange patch. You don't think about subscribing to, you know, this one, that one. So bottom line is, when we did Crest Lincoln, I had like in 4 or 5 patches. It was in the Orange. It was the whole bit, you know. And so it's a pretty powerful medium, because today, I hate to say it, where, you know, I'm an English literature major, I did writing, and I did the whole bit, is the editorial integrity today of almost anybody's, people just get their news in a cotton candy kind of way today, you know. It's not the Walter Cronkites, you know. So, but if you put something legitimate there, you know. So yeah, that's what we're doing. As far as the community awards, I'll wrap it up, I guess, because I've really gone over. I apologize.
No, thank you.
No.
I got you off track, I appreciate it.
Oh, you know, it's easy enough with me. I'm like my dogs, you know. It's a good one. But the community awards are going actually too well, because we're doing really well. And I had to send out this. I don't want to get into the grain of this, but we're going to have it at the Courtyard by Marriott. I know a couple of you are going. Thank you. Appreciate it. We've expanded it, as I said, to the other 2 towns, and what we have right now is, last year we did 3 awards for Orange: Business of the Year, which is really a chamber award. It could be anybody. It doesn't have to be any town. And then we have Police and Fireman of the Year. Well, now we have the Fire Department for Bethany, because as you know, they have state police, so they wouldn't have that. And in Woodbridge, we have the Policeman of the Year. The chief of the fire department didn't want to participate this year, so that was his decision not to. But you know, maybe next year he will, because that was our hope that he was going to. But anyway, so right now we're gonna be at capacity, and I say at capacity, well over 100 people. I'm looking at how we change the room around and where do we put the buffet and everything. It's a good problem to have, but you know, and so. You don't be surprised in the next week if you see something that says sold out waiting list, because I can only fit so many people in the space. We already have 3 of the rooms. We already have the hallway. I feel like, gee, if it's good weather out, we can put it out in the gazebo over there like the coffee. It's really funny, you know, what we got going. So it's a good problem. It's going to be it's successful. We you know, the chamber, the tickets are, again, we don't try to charge a lot. We charge what we need to charge, if you will, because we want to get there. But thank God we have the sponsors that help us get us over the hoop, because, you know, for every honoree, and every police chief, and every fire chief, and their spouse, in this case of the fire, you know, we like to give them complimentary tickets. Like, you're our guests, so we pay for that. We pay for the award. You know, we you know, because it is a chamber thing, and it's a win-win, because we're able to engage the community. And I know for a fact that that Woodbridge is very, very, especially the Woodbridge Police Department is very helpful, very prompt. They got their orders in, and he's very thankful, because it's something he always wanted to do, from what I gather, something that he had on his thing to do. It's kind of one of those things that we let him check that off his list, but also it's important that we get to recognize that. And the same thing with the Orange police chief, and also the volunteer fire department. So I mean, everyone it's important, you know, it's a great
Yeah,
opportunity.
well, congratulations. It's
Oh,
a
thank
tribute
you.
to your hard work
Well done.
and effort and the quality of your product.
Oh, thanks.
For sure.
I don't know anything else for me, but I'm just saying that's what we do, and there's a whole bunch of list of events I could read off to you in the next month, but I think that I'll leave it there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Okay.
and I know that we'll look forward to hearing about the grand reopening of Charter in October.
Yeah.
And I will be in attendance for the Community Awards on the 25th to honor Officer Lally for Woodbridge and the others, of course. So, thank you for joining us, and appreciate all the information about the chamber.
No problem.
Thank you, Barry.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Moving on with our agenda. We have POCD update. Just look back at my notes. Apologize. Of course, we had all discussed, had an opportunity to discuss the POCD. Sherry had sent in back in July some highlights of that she was able to pull, which were phenomenal. So thank you for your work. Of course, the POCD was delivered to the Board of Selectmen. They voted to reject it. So right now we're, I think, in a little bit of a holding pattern to find out what the next step will be. We did have the opportunity, per Chris Sullivan, to submit any further comments that we have to TPZ at their hearing that they're going to hold in October. And there was a deadline, but again, right now that's fluid as far as, I think, the timeline that the town has to work on that and act on it. But certainly we could hear any comments that anyone has this evening.
I just have one, and I'll be brief. I just think that, you know, when I read through the revised POCD, that our portion of it seemed to be very much a business development plan. And while I do agree with the concept of the business development plan, I think that we need more people in order to properly execute it. And I had sort of indicated that to everybody, you know, in an email, and I'm glad to share it further if people would like to see that. But you know, the success of execution of that plan is going to be directly tied to boots on ground, and it's going to have to be a very specific type of interaction with our townspeople, business owners in town.
Yeah, and I think that your point of, you know, kind of adding folks to it is something that we'd have to go back to Board of Selectmen to look at and say, you know, what could be done to potentially offset some of the amount of work, if you will, that has to be done during the workday out, you know, touching these different businesses and so forth when we're sitting here as volunteers doing so, and, you know, certainly doing the best we can. But certain times, of course, our professional and family obligations have to take precedent.
Cliff, do you have any sense that the rejection from the Board of Selectmen, I think that's probably a pretty rare occurrence in the state of Connecticut. It's, you know, it's maybe some might even say unheard of. There have been a few towns that have done that, but certainly, you know, I don't know what you take from that, but when the Board of Selectmen denies and really hasn't come forth with a large coordinated response as to what their changes are, have you had any indication as chairman about how any of the problems they feel that the plan of conservation and development has for economic development, or is it in other areas, and that the POCD part for economic development is fine? You know, do we take it, you know, as a vote of no confidence from our Board of Selectmen? Does somebody take it as no vote of confidence for conservation, or take it for, you know, TPZ? Because I haven't heard why they rejected it, except that they had problems with it.
Yeah, and I think that their feedback was to be shared after the meeting from what I listened to the meeting. I didn't attend, but I listened to it, and I think that some comment will be forthcoming. To get specifics from our aspect of it, no, I have not.
Because I can't imagine what's wrong from our end, what's rejectable.
I think
that's-
there's certainly
it's-
some issues that could be touched on, as Sherry put in, some of the goals
I didn't see any of that.
that were there. She'd sent it in reply to our email that went to everybody, did not.
No, I don't think I saw it.
Happy to forward it to you. But this is when we were discussing after our July meeting,
Yeah.
potential for a special meeting to discuss it.
Right.
And the only feedback that we had received, or I received, was from Sherry and from Steve. So with comments whether or not to proceed with that special meeting, that's the reason that we
But
didn't.
the recommendations were just to keep keep the plan as it was written in place as it is now, right? I mean, we had some additional things, Sherry had some things, I had some things we wanted to, but I think what the Board of Selectmen are saying is that that they're okay with the plan as it is now. That they don't want to make any further revisions to it. Am I correct in understanding that?
My understanding was no, that what was presented to them, perhaps it was based on the feedback that they received in the two public hearings that were held, and whatever feedback that they got elsewhere, that what was presented to the Board of Selectmen, they rejected as a whole, and we're going to send it back to TP&Z and say, rework this.
But they didn't specifically
They
say
did not
which
specifically,
areas.
no, they did not. So that's something that we can reach out to. I'm happy to send an email tomorrow and find out.
Because I think it'd be, because again, if it's our issue, then what's.
Yeah, I mean, ours, from my perspective, it seemed, we've been talking about in every POCD that I've seen for the last decades, literally decades, it's been to consider mixed use.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's never happened.
No.
And we've said consider mixed use, and we say it again, and it never gets to happen. So, is that a problem? That unfulfilled promise of saying that's what we've always wanted in our POCD from economic, that we need people, we need sort
Well,
of
there's-
transportation, people, and businesses follow. That's how we build an economic vibrant center where we can diversify our tax base, do all those things that politicians say, but I want to develop an, economic development, and I don't want to just get elected. And so is
Right.
that a problem for our EDC that we're saying mixed use?
No, I don't think so. And to that point, without getting too far ahead of ourselves, our next item with regards to Main Street and this whole idea of development is going to, at a very brief conversation, that the EDC's role in the near future, working with a new town planner, will be looking specifically at what zoning change could be made, where it should be made, and I think specific to mixed use. So I think if we're looking at the business district and see where mixed-use development could possibly go there, this is going to be where one of our tasks that we're going to be given in the near future.
Are we getting a town planner? Because I had heard yesterday's meeting, at least one selectman, I think, indicated out on her watch or something to that effect. or
I
something.
couldn't speak to that. This is
But
what was
we are gonna get a
communicated.
planner? We are going to get a planner?
This is what was communicated to me, that this is the plan.
That we are going to get a planner.
I think so.
That's good.
That'd be good.
That's a good
Yeah.
thing.
But
I mean, something I'd like to raise a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think it's gotten enough, just putting it out there. And, there was a really huge planning bill, momentous planning bill, HB 5002. And if you're not aware of it, I think it's got to get on our radar screen. And it was, so maybe a show of hands if you know what HB 5002 is.
No idea.
So it's a huge planning bill. It's a housing and homeless planning bill. And it passed both the House and the Senate. It was controversial. And it did a couple of things for towns like us, because housing is, as we've had different speakers come in to say, that housing is economic development. You know, we need people in housing and mixed use, and that sort of zoning changes that you do, that's economic development. Well, this thing was passed by the House and the Senate, and it had real impact for how we plan and how we zone. And it passed the House and the Senate, but the governor vetoed it. And so the talk is that it's going to go to special session shortly and to come back. And how it comes back, if it comes back, and when it comes back. But I think it's important that if we are going to be charged with economic development, which requires to think about mixed-use housing and to think about zoning changes, and we get a planner, we need to get up to speed on the kinds of stuff that were in there. So, for instance, you know, one of the things that was in there was, you know, minimum parking requirements are going to be lowered. Some of those things that were in there were as-of-right developments for commercially zoned properties. Those are the kinds of things a planner can really help us through. But if that game changer comes through, for instance, there was a fair share allocation for creating affordable housing as well. And that hasn't been talked about because a lot of the small cities and towns really pressed the governor for a veto. But if that comes back, we're going to be required, there are some safety valves that if you can't do it, you don't have vacant land or undevelopable land, but we're going to be required to think about planning, and this is our plan of conservation and development. We could be thinking about planning for 332 affordable housing units in the next 10 years. And that was the number that was approved by the House and the Senate for us. That changes the whole conversation.
What was that number?
332. Just in Woodbridge's allocation. So the fair share allocation in Woodbridge that was approved by the House and the Senate and vetoed by the governor to send it back to say, that sounds like a lot of housing units. And I won't get into where my view is on all that, but I think it's relevant to say, we're now in a hold on our own POCD. We've now rejected it. I don't know for the reasons. And now we have this thing that's hanging on us that could come back in October that says, you now have to plan to create 332 affordable housing units. How do you do that? I have some thoughts, if we were ever charged with having to do that, I have some thoughts about how you would do that. Because I think it's a lot.
And does it specify a timeline?
10 years.
Okay.
So in other words, what it did was, what the fair share that passed was that they came up and they did a study. The legislature approved the study. It says, how many should these towns do? And then based upon their demographics, you know, how much their median income is, how much affordable housing they do have, the kinds of parameters they had, they allocated the fair share allocation amongst the towns. And our number was 1,328 affordable units. They came up with a compromise in the House and the Senate to say, okay, we need them to plan. It's a planning bill. We want you to plan to create 25% of that number. That's 332 affordable housing units. Well, as you know, if we do mixed use and we say that we have to create affordable housing units, if we have a set aside at 10%, right? 10% of the units you build are affordable. That's 3,322 units you have to create if you had a 10% set aside. So it could be a significant number to plan for. That throws the whole POCD kind of in a wacky condition, right? That, you know, there are some safety valves that say that if you don't have the vacant land, you can go try to get an exception, you go to the round table and stuff like that. So you can see, I'm just putting this huge planning elephant out there that is, you know, and there's a lot of talk about, is it going to come back to special session in October? They're talking now. I'm staying close to it because I think I don't know the reasons we rejected the plan, but if this became law and that you had to put in your plans, planning for affordable housing as of right development in commercial areas, that changes your whole sort of zoning and planning expertise. And so I think it's something that we should all be sort of get familiar with, so we're not sort of not up to speed if it comes, because it passed, you know, and then it got vetoed. So that's my 2 cents is, you know, you can create the affordable setting side with a commitment from the town. You can get an effective set aside up to 40-50%. If you contribute land to the capital stack. So if you choose the right areas to do this and you own the land, you know, it's not that much a creation of that many units because you can get the set aside effectively up there. But again, I throw it out there just, I think we should maybe even have sessions on it just to be
Okay.
prepared, because it changes our whole way of when we think about where would you build 332 affordable housing units?
Right.
How does that conflict with the general statute that requires whatever it was, 10% before?
Well, there's no requirement, right, for 10% affordable housing requirement. There was just if you had 10% of your housing stock as affordable, then you're exempt for 830G, and so therefore, you can fend off an 830G application, and you don't have to shift the burden. So it was only for a builder's remedy, really, that 10% requirement. So that, there's no mandate that we do 10%. But I throw that out there. It was given light discussion at the Board of Selectmen meeting a little bit, and in some publications that one of the selectmen's publishing. But, when I saw the POC terminated or denied,
Yeah.
and then I'm saying, gosh, this could come back tough. If it was here, it would have been a complete game changer. We would have had to send the POCD back to increase it for more planning, for more planning. So, how the politicians work that out, I just say, we should get up get up to speed on that. And if you need anything from me on that.
Yeah.
I follow it closely.
Great.
I can send out the OLR, the legislative research reports on it.
That'd be
But we
great.
should know by October if we're gonna have to start planning for different things.
Sure. Well, I think it'd be beneficial to everybody to at least, look at the summary of it and become a little bit more familiar in the event that it does go forward. We, would at least be able to have an educated conversation. So, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one, we've got Main Street update. Main Street Steering Committee had a first meeting of that committee yesterday. I was unable to connect for Teams because I was away from the computer at the time. However, I did have a chance to speak briefly with Dale. There were a couple action items that were listed in the Main Street assessment that we had gotten, specifically looking at one was to create the steering committee, and the first step in that steering committee is looking at folks from zoning, so Chris Sullivan, somebody from 2030, that's Chris Dickerson, myself, Mika, Peter Palumbo from Crest as some community engagement as kind of the first steps in this. We're not moving too far along on it just yet, but I thought that the action item number 2 that was given to us was to assemble an inventory of building stock, listing of businesses, is something that we started on with Tony's help and of course with Daniel as well, who was the intern. Steve and I briefly spoke and we looked at ways that you can look at this commercial property availability and so forth. We've got some information on that. So action item 2 on that, regardless of what direction the Connecticut Main Street Center and Woodbridge go on it, these are 2 items that we've been talking about well before Main Street Center came up, the last 2 years, about coming up with this listing of businesses and then taking that and saying, where are our businesses centered? Are we services? Are we finance? Are we X, Y, and healthcare, and so on? So I think this is at least pushing us in the right direction. We do have a great listing to start with of businesses that are registered with the town, and then we'll just have to keep plugging along on that. That's where Main Street is at this point. There's a couple other, any questions on that? Okay. There's a 2030 meeting on September 16th. It's going to be at 6 o'clock. They're looking at the connectivity project. They're going to talk about the takeaway from the open house that was held. They were going to start working on this at the 60% design phase. However, right now, with that grant, they're going back to the DOT, so kind of the 60% presentation that'll be done is on hold because the DOT has apparently changed their requirements, and now they're going to go back and relook at the traffic light at the corner of Bradley and Amity. So kind of just slowing things down on that until they can get another look at it.
We look at it as in potentially change their mind.
Correct. For apparently the rules and/or requirements that the state has to allow for a traffic light, traffic signal, has been altered. So whether it's good or bad, I don't have the data because I didn't get the chance to read it, but this is what was told to me, because I asked, were you looking at a date for the 60% design phase presentation? And that's when they said, no, not right now, because of the fact that this may change things.
That would be terrific.
But the fact that we want a traffic light and this slows it down because they changed the traffic lights can only be good news then, right?
I would hope so, because the traffic light,
If we
the
want to slow it
number,
down.
when you're talking about the number of, plus minus $1 million
Yeah.
to put a traffic signal in. Well, you had some money. There's other transportation funds that are still sitting out there that are available.
What you're saying is it might be a bigger contribution from our point of view.
That I couldn't speak to.
Understood. Okay.
But my understanding is that DOT is going to look at it, and perhaps they've changed what the criteria were. Again, I don't have the specifics,
Gotcha.
but
When's that 2030 meeting?
that's on the 16th at 6 o'clock.
Here?
It is, yeah. Okay. Amity Chamber of Commerce Awards, we talked about that. Through the New Haven Economic Development Corporation, I attended their what do they call it, summer workshop. Was Michael Harris provided that, and it was some information on what the redevelopment and with regards to RECs on what they call en-suite economic development services available to the towns, and what New Haven Economic Development Corporation is providing to the members, so Woodbridge being one, of different information gathering. They're looking to shape the agenda for the year ahead. This meeting was held on July the 24th. And Dale was there with a bunch of other folks from SCROG, other economic development officials from surrounding towns. And it was, I thought, a nice way to let their new director or their new CEO, Mr. Harris, introduce himself and give some guidance about where they're looking to go going forward. They're going to have these meetings monthly and looking at different topics to look at gray fields, mapping to the biosector, Forward Vision Community Foundation of New Haven, working with them, understanding the housing bill, parking needs assessments, and so forth. So it was interesting. The lunch was not, but it was there. I feel like ham and cheese. Beyond that, any questions on that one? Okay.
So is that a Rex presentation? Or?
That was through the Regional Economic Development Forum for the Economic Development Corporation of New Haven. So that's what REX falls under. But the folks from SCROG were there with a lot of other interesting things to share. And these are all things that, not just economic development, but the town has access to these folks who know grant writing, they know transportation, they know, working ins and outs with DOT and things such as that. So I think it's certainly valuable for someone to attend. And they were going to open this up. Initially, it was just sent out to folks that were the executives of the town, and then they opened it up further. And Mika was the only town manager or first selectman, mayor, whatever, that attended. However, the others were the folks that are on the ground doing economic development in most of these shoreline towns. But it was a nice group of people who were able to share some ideas. Next, some businesses opening and closing. Of course, we've all heard and seen Woodbridge Social has closed. They weren't going to renew their lease. We have a bagel shop opening that's hopefully going to be October, November-ish. That's where the former UPS store was. Something Barry noted earlier was a Methnasium. They're going to be opening hopefully after the first of the year at 270 Amity. And something that we also had already previously noticed was a massage spa also coming in at 270 Amity. If anyone heard of any other businesses?
What happened to that business, the farm to table place? Is that happening still?
It's still in the works. They're in there working.
They are, okay.
You think that they, farm and table would have been hot at
Yeah,
August, but
yes.
maybe the interior wasn't complete. I couldn't speak to
Where's
it.
the location for that one?
It was the old Mexican restaurant. I don't know what that was.
Oh, yes.
On Lucy Street.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
Okay. Any new business from anyone?
The only thing I tried to do over the last few months was try to get a list of all the local businesses in town and start putting it all together.
Yeah.
And I tried doing it from a public, information, and it just was a morass of
Yeah.
crap. So do we have a list of, businesses in town?
Sure do.
We do? Because I think we need to start putting that together, and it's
Yeah.
like, here's who's old, here's who's new,
Yeah.
here's who's going out of business,
Well, there was
and I'm
a-
happy to put it together, but I need some data.
Yeah, so there was that list that Cliff
We
distributed.
had submitted back maybe April, May.
Yeah,
Okay.
they were almost supposed to try to reach out to some people. and
That one, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know that that ever really took off.
It didn't go too far, but we do have an updated list that we obtained, and it's 300 plus
Okay. Can you
businesses.
send me the updated one?
Sure.
Because I just want to put
everybody.
it in like a plan.
Yeah,
So we can
it's in,
start talking about it.
it's in Excel,
Okay.
and then to the point where we're going to look at this and look at different types of businesses, and try and group things together so we can come down with it. And then from that, this all rolls into what Dale spoke to us about in July, and June or May, whenever it was, about the retention program. And this is when we're actually going out. Again, makes it a little bit more difficult when we're working. And, most of these places are working during the day, to Steve's point, why it's difficult. But I think that the way that the chamber does things, and I think that you could probably answer this, previous economic development commissions had run, for lack of a better word, a business after hours along some of the businesses that are in town. I know they did that passport where you'd visit different places and get a stamp and get a prize or whatever the raffle was. But either way, we could take these things and now get out doing the touch with these businesses and do like an after hour somewhere. That would take some coordination, of course, but I think it might be easier to do it that way. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, with all due respect to the Amity Chamber doing it, could be the Woodbridge GDC reaching out and saying, hey, we're going to have a night at wherever. Crest is wide open to anything. They love using their building for community engagement. And he's told us that repeatedly. Anything that you need, they're there for it. And I think New England Brewing Company will be the same.
That whole availability of digital publication, I think would be attractive to business owners.
For sure. Okay.
Have we ever sent out just a general letter to all of our businesses that says, hey, with EDC, we do this, and this. Here's our plan for the future, whatever that looks like. Just to let them know that
Not that I know of.
that we exist and that, hey, we're gonna reach out to you. We have plans to do whatever, or we intend to do whatever the right wording is, as an introductory letter. So I don't know if that's something that's.
I think it's certainly doable, especially the fact that now we have this
Yeah.
business listing that's a little bit more
I think
complete.
it's the messaging that you'll have to come up with,
Yes.
right? I mean,
Yes.
that's the thing. The only communication since I've been involved. Was the communication I put together for the 23rd, explaining what was happening. I delivered it to those businesses, hand-delivered it. Mika followed up with some of those businesses. In fact, he has a meeting, I think, Advantage Maintenance. I don't know if you know Tom Wilkinson. And he's created a solar distribution business separate to his, and to, I think, fuel up some of the businesses there. So, from that, there's been some follow-up with some businesses that reached out.
And I think there's also the opportunity to take a letter such as that, format it to the economic development page, for lack of a better word, on the website.
I have the, on the 2030 page, I put the actual presentation
Right.
from the open house, along with the handouts on that as well. So that is included on the 2030 page because, I guess I could maybe put something on the EDC page as well.
I think that would be helpful to Chatty's point about, here's who we are, this is what we're trying
If you
to
need
do,
anything, right.
and, please reach out to us. And the lady, a perfect example of that was the lady who's trying to open up this spa. She reached out to Tony, I followed up with her, she had a bunch of questions, zoning related, building department, so I made a couple of phone calls, got the answer, and replied to her. It was something that was easy enough in the middle of the day to do, and you were able to get a concise answer quickly. So, things like that, showing, well, you know what, we're not just sitting here, talking amongst ourselves, we can actually do something and help these places. And that, of course, in other towns would be someone who's, a paid staff member doing these kinds of things from an economic development standpoint. But we're not there.
Right, and
Maybe it's something-
Magnesium I had passed along to Barry, and then the bagel shop. And these are just people who happen to come and have questions, come in my window and ask a question, and I just kind of follow up. So, and Barry's going to reach out to him as he
Right.
gets closer to his opening date, probably in November timeframe.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Next, we have public comment. Any public comment? Public comment. Okay. Our next meeting is October 9th, 6 o'clock. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Steve? Scott? Thank you very much. All in favor?
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, good.
That's good.